we went through a very rigorous process.
Okay.
And I recall that way back in 2020, we called it the People's Manifesto.
Yes.
And we did what we call the Speak Out, where we were going to various communities across the country. And the flag bearer himself was present. And in all the communities, we allowed the people to come out with the issues that were of concern to them. So in 2024, we followed a similar route. And we had people who were taking copious notes of all the issues that were being raised. So at the end of the day, all the issues were put together. And let me commend Beatrice Annan. She was the key person. Of course, other people worked with her, but she was a key person who was tasked with compiling and putting all the issues together. So, with computer, you can do everything. So we looked at the trends, okay? So if you go to a particular community, what are the major issues, okay? Economy, jobs, that. So we had general issues. So depending on the rates at which those issues come up, you give it a grade. Okay. So if that issue comes up in every community and it's 1,000, it's a certain grade. So you know that it's a priority. Okay. And then if it follows. Then we had community-specific issues as well. So after we did that to get the views of the public, then we also had stakeholder engagements. We engaged, every stakeholder possible. Doctors, farmers, teachers, students, nurses, landlords, tenants. We engaged hundreds of groups. So both at the manifesto level and at the subcommittee, because we had various subcommittees. And all these reports were compiled. And then we now began to do that. And I said, then also the flag bearer, also specifically, he was addressing, he gave several addresses where he outlined specific policies. So when he outlines those policies, we'll take it, that becomes a major source of the manifesto. And then after that, when we do all the drafts, then we now get into what we call the real hard work. Okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. How are you going to do it?
Okay. So every
single promise, every single sector. As I'm speaking to you now, the team is actually working on implementation.
Okay.
We did a first part because we needed to be convinced that there's an implementation strategy for everything we'll put out when we come into government. So that was done, and then the manifesto was launched. Post-manifesto, they are now doing a real action plan. So the day we enter office, there's an action plan, there's a strategy, there are costs. So I'll give you an example. So we talk about 10 billion, big push.
Yes.
Everybody asking, how are you going to get 10 billion? Sources have been identified already. Don't forget that President Mahama, and this was said by the international business community, there was a forum at Kempiski a couple of months ago. And they themselves said that in the history of this country, it was only under President Mahama's tenure that we had more foreign direct investment than any other government. We had about $13.5 billion US dollars coming in as FDI during the tenure of President Mahama. So all the things we've put there, 10 billion, big push, 3 billion, ICT investment, all these things are things that we have engaged stakeholders, we have engaged potential investors, we have engaged people who are involved in the industry, and we are clear that we know where the sources are going to come from. But I think it's important, before I go into that, to situate the discussion in the proper context, because context is everything. MPP came to us in 2016. Another had tried several times, and 2016 he said, try me and see. Ghanaians felt that, well, let's give the old man a chance. After all, when you about Ankrah, he will come and do his best for the country. So they gave him the opportunity. He came, he didn't do very well. But this notion of, well, I've started something, so let me continue, plus other underhand dealings and the monies that they spent, for the first time in the history of our country, we had an election where 8 people were murdered. People don't forget that, I, as election director, I knew that we had won 142 seats, but they took Techiman by force. They killed people. Takwa and Swayem, they took it. Afriyie also, they took snack ballot boxes that they were moving, pick up. It was very violent. Sikado Ketan, the regional chairman, would tell you that at a point he had to choose between his life and the ballot box, because whilst he was in the collation room, the lights went off and his gun started firing. At that point, ballot box were itching, and then of course one seat in the north. So, but be that as it may, let's say 137. Don't forget that prior to that, the NDC had 106 seats.
Yes.
106. MPP had 169. For the first time in the history of this country, after a first term, we were able to claim back 31 seats. The so-called 1 million deficit, we cancelled that. The NDC's votes went up to 6.2 million. So we gained 1 million extra seats. So that's a but then, what did the MPP come and promise us? They made so many promises. I just have a few here. Nanado said, I shall protect the public purse. People are saying that now even the purse is missing. We don't know where the purse is. I am too old to steal your money. I already have my own money. Yet it's Sikaso and so accommodating. And I think people are starving. Try me and see. Try me and see is very critical, is relevant, because Baumia too is saying, try me and see. I am not corrupt and I'll never be corrupt. Now, and I think we should spend some time on the issues of corruption, because see, there's a lot of misinformation and cloudiness about the issues of corruption. And
as in the concept and what it means or how it applies.
No. In terms of the perceptions of people about NDC, MPP,
Okay.
And there's some things, about people accuse President Mahama, and I want to deal with it. I'm not afraid of any issue. I want to confront the issues and provide factual evidence, and then you will see that between President Mahama and Nana Akufo-Addo, you can't even begin to compare with facts. I can develop Ghana without borrowing. The money is here. And these are people who, when they came to office, at the time we were leaving office, the total debt stock of this country was 126 billion, out of which President Mahama borrowed 54 billion. And for the 54 billion, there are things we can show sector by sector, every single sector. When it comes to health sector, education sector, I could go on and on and on and on, and maybe we'll go into that into more detail. Today, the total debt stock of this country after 8 years is 757 billion, out of which MPP has borrowed over 651 billion. Where is the money? If you ask them, they'll say free SHS. Free SHS, by the Minister of Finance's own account, they haven't even spent up to 20 billion. So even if you give them 20 billion for free SHS, there's 130 billion. Where is it? They've messed up the money. I'll transform Ghana in 18 months. In 8 years, they haven't done. I will not operate a family and friends government. We have the family tree, you can tell. And maybe when I have time, I'll go through it for you to see. I'll fight corruption with the ANAS principle. ANAS was even running for cover. And again, on corruption, it's important for people to realize that this is Nanado who fought on corruption and came to power.
Okay.
The worst performance of the NDC, according to the Transparency International report, CPI, was 43. Okay, that is the best performance of the MPP. That's the best performance. Beyond that, Nanado appointed his own corruption czar in the person of Martin Amido. When he was appointing him, he said that this is a man of integrity, he's a man who cannot be compromised, he's a principled person. Those were the words of Nanado. Martin Amido, after working with them for 3 years, said, hey, Nanado is the mother serpent of corruption. We are not saying that enough. NDC, that is his name given to him by the person he appointed to fight corruption. Nanado is the mother serpent of corruption. That is the capo di tutti, the capi of all the corruption. All the corruption going on, he's a beneficiary, he's an active participant, and he's the supervisor. I didn't say it. That's Martin Amido. And the significance is that he's the one who he appointed to fight corruption, and he endorsed him. So he said, hey, I'll build a factory in every district. I'll make the Kole Lagoon and Northern River a tourist site. I'll give every constituency $1 million. I will arrest the dollar. See? How much time do we have? We'll close for time. You have to ask your producers to give us some extra time.
We'll close at 10. We have to close at 10.
Okay, so now, see, every politician has what he calls his driving philosophy.
Okay.
So, Sajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the independence of Ghana is meaningless without the total liberation of Africa. He worked towards it.
Yeah.
Kutu Champon, Occupation Feed Yourself. All right.
JJ is able to produce to feed
exactly.
Okay.
JJ role is probity, integrity, accountability. He lived and died for it. Who else?
After Jerry John Rawlings was Kufuor.
Yes, Kufuor. He was sitting na Tuaba. Okay. Atamels Asumdwe Hene. You know. Ananado, I don't remember. He said many things. You know. John Dramani Mahama, everybody knows infrastructure, Hene, the nation builder. You understand me? So, Bawumia's political philosophy and identity is the dollar. And when the fundamentals of the economy is weak, the exchange rate will expose you.
Okay.
That is his grown. No, when you go to law school, the first thing they teach you is the source and the beginning, the origin of law, the grown norm, the basis. So Bawumia's political identity is the dollar. It says when the fundamentals of the economy is weak, you can talk about everything else. That is how you determine the success of any economist. At that time, the CD was 4 cedis to the dollar. The dollar was 4 cedis to the dollar. Okay. Today, this dollar is 17 cedis and counting. All right. So the political identity, the political philosophy with which he came into politics, and for which Nanado himself said, "I'm bringing this guy because he understands the economy. So I'm handing the economy over to him," and they made him the chairman of the economic management team. And then he himself too acknowledged that by giving economic lectures, not digital lectures. Okay. And then he continued, and then he asked the late Emisata 170 economic questions. So he acknowledges that, look, when you are given charge of the economy as chairman of the economic management team, it is your responsibility. And that is why when he was introducing the economic management team, he said, these are wonderful people. And he listed the fantastic, Dr. Jambafor, This is it. So Bawumia is a complete failure. By his own words, by his own deeds, said it's a working disaster.
Measuring him on only the matter of the economy, because he said that is his political philosophy.
That is the reason why they brought him. Okay. Let me give you an analogy so that our ordinary people understand. Ghana is a hospital. Okay, and the patient too is Ghana. So we had Dr. Mahama, right, who took the patient Ghana. The patient was sick. What was the sickness? Doom saw, everything was, things were not okay. So Dr. Mahama, John Mahama, fixed that patient. That patient became stable. The stability is when the international rating agencies, and these international rating agencies, I call them external examiners. If I say it, you say, oh, me, I'm NDC. So let's base it on what the external examiners are saying. And they examine all countries, Ghana, Nigeria, America, everywhere. Fitch, Standard & Poor, Bloomberg, all of them, World Bank, IMF. They rated Ghana's economy as a B-, which is stable. So the patient was stable by the time we were leaving office, could go home, could eat, was working. Then comes Nanado, Dr. Nanado. He says, oh, this patient that Mahama has put him at B stable, me, I can give the patient, the patient will walk, run, and give birth to twins and triplets. Mahama doesn't know anything. So Ghana said, oh, really? This patient, 60 plus, he can give birth to children. He said, oh, you don't know. I have a young consultant. He trained in Canada. He worked at Bank of Ghana. He knows how to do surgery that can make patients give birth and be more productive. So Ghanaians believed him and they gave him the patient. Okay? So the patient that was stable, B-, was doing well on the path of getting to the next level. They gave him to Nanado. Today, what is the state of the patient? Today, I've told you, our debt stock is gone off the roof. Our debt to GDP ratio, when we were in office, it was 55%, 56 maximum. That is the quantum of money that we used to pay our debts every year. So if you sell everything, how much of it would you use to pay debts? It was 56%. Today, debt to GDP ratio went up to 104%. Now it's come down to about 90 something. It's a disaster. The exchange rate that I was talking to you about, that was the main reason why they brought Bawumia. The exchange rate has moved from 4 to 17 cedis. Every single sector of the economy is in a mess. For the first time, we've had haircuts, poor civil public servants, pensioners, their money they've gone to save so that they can use to buy diabetes medicine, pressure medicine, etc. For the first time, this government went into their pockets, took the money, principal, interest. A lot of them have died. It is a disaster. It's never happened before. What else should happen for Ghanaians to know that this government is a colossal and monumental failure? And it was all led by Bawumia because he was the chairman of the Economic Man in 19. So now the patient is in coma. Then now they say, oh, you know what? Dr. Mahama, people are saying, we want Mahama back. We want Mahama back. Then he say, oh, Dr. Mahama, when he comes, he will have only 4 years. Me, Dr. Bawumia, I'll have 8 years potentially. So allow me to come back and do 4 years and potentially 8 years so that you kill the patient.
He talks about accountability.
What? Accountability for what?
That if you have the opportunity of doing 8 years, at least you know in your first 4 years that you have to go back to the people.
No, the accountability rather must come and have accountability so that we can investigate PDS, so that we can investigate Ejapa, so that we can investigate all the fraudulent and humongous deals that they have done, that we can investigate Bank of Ghana printing money, billions of cedis, 40 billion or whatever, without proper due process. Money, Auditor General says 52 billion Ghana cedis was wired to a certain account. They don't know. Is this a government that must be given a second chance? So I'm saying that if you look at all their promises, I'll build a factory in every district, I'll give every constituency $1 million. The hike in fuel prices will be a thing of the past. I'll make Accra the cleaner city. I'll build 111 district hospitals in 18 months. Every day they are giving a different date. 18 months is 10 to 8 years. La Hospital was sitting down, minding its own business. You went and collapsed it, told us within 6 months. 6 months, 10 to 1 year. 1 year, 10. Okoboy, every day he sits on TV with his bow tie giving deadlines. He's given about 6 or 8 deadlines. How can we trust such a government? You know, I'll build 350 new secondary schools from scratch. We will never go to the IMF for bailout. Again, it's important. A context. Everything is about context. Okay? When we were leaving office, the IMF deal that we signed, which was homegrown, which the IMF then endorsed, was 1.8 billion, right? We took the first tranche, 600 million. They came and inherited the 2 other tranches. So that's what people don't know. So they took 600 million, took another 600 million. It was when they were off the IMF program that they now had to use their own brain. That is why they introduced the so-called Ghana without aid. And the Ghana without aid is what has led us into a junk economy, where they have borrowed and borrowed ourselves into a mess. That's number one. Number two, they have had access to more resources than any other government in the history of this country. Now, President Mills, President Mahama, cumulatively over 8 years, the resources that were available to them was about 300 billion cumulatively. And it is out of those resources that we did all these things: Trouble Gas, KGTR Market, E-Blocks, Terminal 3, Circle Dubai, Ho Airport, Kumasi Airport, Tamale Port Expansion, UHAS, UGMC, Ridge Hospital, Bolga Hospital, the 2 hospitals in Ashanti region that they've left to rot, including the 500-bed military hospital, Maritime Hospital, then district hospitals, Dodowa, Fomena, Kumewu, Bitifi, Tepa, Konongo, Salaga, Chifupraso, Medina, Bekwai, Chip Compound. I, as a minister, every month 10% of our money was taken to build chip compounds. We completed 1,260. There were another 1,600 at various stages of completion. They didn't finish them. Water and transportation, more water. People shouldn't forget that Medina, Adenta had a serious water problem. It was the NDC, Jomanda, that solved it. Okay, we fixed it. Accra Taman Water Project is the one water project, Freetown's water supply project, Chebi, Nanado's now, after serving as MP for 16 years or so, he couldn't provide them water. It was John Dramani Mahama and the NDC that provided water for Chebi, Osunasi, and Yinam, Apidja, and Kwabing. Kumasi Water Supply Project, that's the Barekesi project. All these things, we did it with that money. How much has the MPP gotten? 1.2 trillion. 1.2 trillion. Where is the money? What have they done with the money? 1.2 trillion, because apart from many other things, the 40, and if we had time, we would have gone through the 40 new taxes that they have introduced. Okay. But when we were leaving office again, we had only one oil well. President Mahama, because he was visionary, he invested into 2 other oil wells. So at the time we were leaving office, we had 2 new oil fields. So they have inherited 3 new oil fields. With 1 oil field, look at the things we were able to do. With revenue from 3 oil fields running into billions of dollars, what is there to show for it? So it's a colossal and monumental mess. They've captured the state capture, the nepotism, cronyism, abuse of office, human rights violation, media freedoms have been thrown to the dogs. It is just a colossal mess. 25% of Ghana's population, that's about 8.5 million people, went a day without food in 2023. And these are Auditor General's reports, Afrobarometer reports. These are international reports. This is not NDC saying it, you know. So the country needs to be rescued. We need to move to the next level, because the MPP has failed monumentally. Corruption is thriving, and I hope we'll get a little time to talk about corruption. So what is the NDC going to do? Again, let me just do this quickly, then I'll go to what we are going to do. Cocoa Board. Okay. Cocoa Board was a very profitable venture under the NDC. In 2017, the first year they came to office, the debts were 395 million Ghana cedis. I'm sure they were alarmed, so they piped down a bit. In 2018, it came to 78.2 million Ghana cedis. And since nothing happened, as usual, then 2019, they were emboldened, it went up to 320.6 million Ghana cedis. Then in 2020, it went to 426 million Ghana cedis. Now, because they got a second term, they became more emboldened. So in 2021, it went to 2.4 billion Ghana cedis. In 2022, it went to 3.3 billion Ghana cedis. 2023, to 4.2 billion Ghana cedis. And in 2024, as of July, it was 2.6 billion Ghana cedis. Cocoa Board, which has been very, very profitable. Now, not only that, but in our time, cocoa production went as high as 966,000 metric tons. Today, they are getting less than 450,000 metric tons. And that's not the only tragedy. Why is that happening? Because in our time, we're giving the farmers free inputs, free fertilizer, etc. So production was going. We're planting new and high-yielding varieties for them. They've neglected the sector. And then, of course, galamsey has become a major problem. And so the farmers are either being forced or are selling off their lands because they think that it's not sustainable. Now, the danger is that this is a journal called the High Street Journal. It's an international journal, business and economy. Consumer, Ghana's cocoa at risk. How Lens lead scandal could spell disaster for Ghana's cocoa. Summary is that they tested the cocoa coming from Ghana, and they're saying that expertly crafted chocolates made with the finest ingredients. The report shows that there was a high quantity of lead in those products. And by 2023, Lens had achieved 100% traceability of its cocoa beans, verified externally to meet global safety and quality standards. However, the recent scandal highlights vulnerabilities even in well-structured supply chains. Long and short of it is that they found that the cocoa was coming from Ghana. And so all these hazardous metals are infiltrating the cocoa crops and potentially affecting products bound for global markets, including those used by brands like Lens. So, you see, this is how far we have come.
Yeah. So, I have because listening to you means that every sector you mentioned,
yes,
there's a problem.
Yes.
Okay.
Now
I guess you are now going back to then how do you go about solving all this, dealing with all these issues?
Fantastic. Good. Because the context is important. So now let's look at what we want to do. So NDC solutions. Number one is a 24-hour economy. Now, the 24-hour economy is an intervention that is meant to stimulate the economy. It's like you are charging the economy. You understand me? So we have a problem. The biggest problem in Ghana, based on all the surveys, is unemployment.
Okay.
So it means when we're leaving office, it was about 8.4%. Today is almost 15%. So what it means is that you cannot use the same thinking and the same strategies that created a problem to solve the problem. Okay. You need to shift the paradigm. And so what do we intend to do with the 24-hour economy? We intend to create an enabling environment and give incentives to the manufacturing and industrial, agric, and other sectors, including the public sector, so that they can create more jobs, boost productivity, and ensure efficiency. Again, I like using analogy. Let's take Kaswa. There's a lot of cassava around Kaswa area. People grow cassava. So somebody has gone to set up Gari processing plant and an ethanol processing plant. Okay? So he gets the cassava from the farmers, and then he processes the Gari and then the ethanol. The Gari for local consumption, and of course some for export to our neighboring countries, and then the ethanol for export. This person employs 100 people. And then with those 100 people, every month he produces 1,000 bags of Gari, 1,000 drums of ethanol. 9 to 5, regular. Under the 24-hour economy, he comes to register. I want to be part of this 24-hour economy. I want to expand my production base. Okay. Government says, okay, we'll send a team to come and install what we call a time of use meter. That time of use meter would bill you differently from your regular time because you're part of this 24-hour economy. Now, our research shows that one of the biggest challenges of the manufacturing sector is the cost of energy, the cost of electricity. So if during normal hours you're paying maybe 50 cedis per hour, with the time of use you're going to pay 10 cedis. We have reduced your cost of production by 80 to 90%. That's a huge incentive for the business. So that's number one. Number two, because now he wants to increase production, he may want to buy more equipment. So government will say, look, we are giving you a grant. Very, very, very good terms. Okay, and we've done it before. For those who say, oh, how do we know you can do it? All the pharmaceutical companies, the major pharmaceutical companies in Ghana, President John Dramani and his leadership ensured that they were giving grants to expand. That is why some of them are even producing in other or selling to other countries within the sub-region. So we've done it before. So you now expand. Number three is when you he imports the equipment, government will say this one you won't pay tax or flat tax because it's meant to help manufacturing sector. Number four, the road to the factory is not in good shape. District Assembly fix the road. Then we have the Ghana lighting system. It's part of it's in our manifesto. So we're going to provide light because people are going to work in the nights because people will work. If you are doing 24-hour shift, people will work. Now he now begins to do 24-hour shift instead of the 9 to 5. So automatically the 100 employees will become how many? 300 employees. Now his production increases from 1,000 bags of Gari to 3,000 a week or a month. Ethanol from 1,000 to 3,000. Government says that through the buffer stocks, through school feeding, we are directing them to buy the Gari from you. So we are using government resources and government's power to now purchase from you. The rest, ethanol. The president says that he's going to sit and chair an accelerated export development council. He himself will chair, working with all the importers, so that we can take advantage of things like AFTA, which has a potential market of 1 trillion in the sub-region alone. So I'm using that as an example to show you how that intervention can stimulate the economy, stimulate production, create jobs, and mind you, when the workers are employed, they're also paying what? Taxes to government. You are reducing unemployment. So you are creating the whole value chain. You are energizing it. Now, don't forget that there will be transporters who have to transport the workers. You have to employ more security guards, both private and the regular security services. So all these sectors, now multiply that by that happening, Gari factory, cashew factory here, pineapple production, all across the country. And in all the sectors, we have said that we're going to have strategic industries located. We are not doing one district, one factory, because you see, some of the districts are contiguous. If you may have 10 districts that produce virtually the same thing, I'm going to have a factory in every single district. It's not economically viable. But we'll look at the whole area. Say, for example, the Bono area, they deal with cashew. So you put a cashew processing plant there. So all the people, then you create the value chain, the transportation networks, the storage, the processing, then the cutting it to the port, etc. So it's a comprehensive strategy. So that 24-hour economy alone will be able to jig up production. There's an aspect of it which I'll come to, which we call Aspire 24. Our research shows that Ghana's labor productivity is one of the lowest in the world. Lowest. The US is about 70,000 US dollar labor productivity per. I need to get my facts right, but it's either per person. Okay, so each person's labor productivity is like 70,000. When they go into production, they are able to produce $70,000. When it comes to Africa, the average is about 15,000. Ours is about 4,500. So it means that our labor productivity is low. So under Aspire 24, what we want to do is that we're going to engage labor, both public and private, and begin to do a transformation, mindset renewal, transformation, and give them skills, digital skills, time management skills, improvement, human relations, customer service, so that our labor productivity will go up. So we're not just talking about the 24-hour economy in a vacuum, but it's within this context. So that's for the 24-hour economy. Then we also...
Before you leave there, in fact, well-painted plan. In fact, there are many plans that have been sold in election years that were very well communicated. One district, one factory, when it was sold, fantastically sold. It was difficult not to buy it. The one village, one dam, well sold. It was difficult not to buy it. But you're talking about the same private sector that the MPP said they were going to work with to do the one district, one factory. Up till now, you know what has happened to it. Are you suggesting that everything that you are talking about will happen as smoothly as you predict, as you expect it to?
Even as you are sitting behind this radio, not everything can happen smoothly, but that is where leadership comes in. So I'll let me answer by giving you an analogy. Every 7-10 years, Ghana experiences a power crisis because of the vagaries of the weather. It happened under Rawlings, it happened under Kufuor. My own friend Kufuor got people to go and pray at Akosombo. So when it happened under John Dramani Mahama, what did he do? He said, I'm going to fix this problem. So there were tremendous challenges. We didn't have the money, we didn't have the expertise and everything. But leadership, that is how come the energy stock of this country moved from less than 2,000 to over 5,000 within 3 years. It's a huge achievement, to the extent that when the MPP came to power, they were complaining that we had too much energy because of lack of vision, because they haven't added to it. We are back to doom, so actually, and it's going to get worse before Christmas. So there will be challenges in everything that we do.
What challenges do you anticipate? Because there's a possibility of you not getting the partnership from the private sector.
No,
as you anticipate.
No. And that's why I give you an example. The pharmaceutical companies in this country, every single one of the major pharmaceutical companies. And I don't want to mention their names, but I mean, these are public facts. Tobinco, NS Chemist, and name them. All of them were given incentives to expand their production. In fact, some of them are actually doing 24-hour production because there's a huge demand for their products, both internally and externally. So we have a proven track record, and with leadership that is dedicated and committed, the same leadership that builds Terminal 1, the same leadership that responded to Port, the same leadership that brought in 2 FPSOs, that same leadership will be able to achieve this. Yes, of course, in everything there will be difficulties. But have you seen any society or country develop well? Before you start, let me be biblical. The children of Israel, God told them that I'm giving you the land of Canaan. It's for you. And please, this has nothing to do with current issues, so I'm just using so that people don't mistake me, misrepresent me. They sent 12 spies. 12 spies. 10 of them saw the land, say, hey, there are giants in the land. The people, and we are like grasshoppers in their sights. Mindset. And 2, Joshua and Caleb said, no, we are well able to defeat those giants and take the land. So it's all about leadership. They say leadership is cause, everything else is effect. Okay. And so because they are visionary leaders they were able to see beyond the problems. That's why we elect leaders to solve the problem. Now I've given you what we were able to do in 4 years, which is actually 3 years. And so this question should rather be directed at them. They are the ones who give all the fantastic promises and didn't fulfill. We've been able to deliver even beyond what we promised. So,
okay. So you're going to move to the next solution. In fact, I know there are many solutions. Yes. We can't go to a lot before we conclude the show. So, which one?
Let me. It's important. I'll just mention them, touch them a bit. Okay. Then the next one is the women's banking, because again our research shows. I was very surprised. I don't know everything. Doing our research that the SME sector constitutes about 95% of the European economy. I didn't know. I assume that it's a big factories. No, 95% of the European economy is controlled by SMEs.
Small, medium enterprise.
Yes, okay. I was so surprised. Ghana, we don't have all the data, but the data shows that over 70 to 80% of our economy is SME. And most of them, again, over 70 to 80% are women. That's why I'm bringing the women's banking. Because we've spoken to them, we've gone around the country, as I told you, the process by which we came out with the manifesto. And one of the biggest challenges they have is access to credit. Okay. You'll be amazed what women can do. You give a woman 1,000 cedis, 5,000 cedis, 10,000 cedis, before you realize they've set up something small. The next time it's grown, expanded. They are the ones who sometimes when we are hot, you know that our wives, every time they have money hidden somewhere. When push comes to shove, they will enter some corner, look into some bag, and bring you some 1,000 to save you. So if you empower the woman, you empower the society, you empower the husband, you empower them. So that's why we're bringing a women's banking. Okay. So seed money of $20 million will be put in there, where the woman will get credit so that they don't have to go and bring collateral and all that. They'll go through a process, and then it will also grow the economy. Next is agric. In the manifesto itself, the agric, we have what we call the agric for transformation, and there are various strategies that we've proposed. So the first one is that we are going to have farmers services centers all across the country. So in all the agric production zones, and those zones are identified, they are known by the Ministry of Agric. We're going to put farm services centers there, where we're going to have various equipment. If you travel across the country, especially in the north, as you travel, you see a lot of broken down equipment, all dotted all over. Those days, we encourage the farmers to buy the equipment if they can. The farmer buys the equipment. The farmer is not a technical person. He's not a mechanic. So they have a fault. Then that's it. Those equipment. So what we're doing now is, and a lot of them, majority cannot afford. So we're going to put the tractors, the whatever it is, all of them in those centers. Farmers come and register. I have 3 acres. I have 5 acres. I have 20 acres. I want you to come and plow for me. And in each of these centers, we are going to have extension officers, who will be there to help the farmers. So these extension officers will guide the farmers, will help you plow it, give you the seedlings, the inputs, the fertilizer, teach you best agronomical practices. Those who can afford to pay, you pay. Those who cannot afford to pay, maybe you want to pay in tranches. Then there's a third category where they can't pay at all, will come into agreement with you. When you harvest, depending on the quantum of inputs, maybe 20% of that will be taken. And when that 20% is taken, it goes to buffer stock. And don't mind you, we say we are going to decentralize supplies of food. Okay. So it's not going to go to a central point. Within that district, within that catchment area, there will be an entity that receives that food, quantifies it, and it forms payment for what has been done for you. Now, the strategy behind this is that we need to gradually move from the cutlass and hoe-based agriculture. Because the people who are in that sector now, they are growing old. When I travel around the country, you see that most of them, they are growing old. You see some Abriwa, some old man. How much can they produce? However, to introduce modern agriculture, you can't just get up and go. How many young people want to go and live in the village? That is why we say we're going to introduce farm banks, land banks. There are vast stocks of land all over the place. So we'll go into the communities, take those lands, service them. 3 or 4 or 5 people finish university. One an agriculturalist, an agriculturist, one an accountant, one a marketer, one an economist, and then together they come and they want to get into farming. Government gives them the incentives. They plow the land for them. They bring a business proposal. And then they will grow, they will pay government out of the proceeds. So gradually you'll be creating a new cadre core of young farmers who understand modern farming methods. So we'll be moving gradually away from the cutlass and hoe, And then we also have a grains improvement project where we're saying that the major grains that we grow, the rice that we eat, rice, sorghum, millet, etc., maize, etc. We're going to concentrate on them and look at the zones and give the farmers the input so that we can reduce the importation. We have a similar strategy for roots and tubers, and we have a similar strategy for vegetables. With the vegetable, we want to encourage backyard gardening. So we have what we call the Yeridua project. There's actually a professor in UCC who has what we call the home garden concept, which is doing very successfully. So he has introduced that concept, and it's something I want to replicate across the country. So that comes to agriculture. And then
give me a moment. Well, we still have Mr. Afriyie Ankrah in studio with us, but he's going through some of the manifesto promises they are making to solve the problems. He painted a picture of the challenge, and I didn't ask you any issues because those are things that are in the public domain. Everybody knows the challenges we are confronted with. When we come back, you'll highlight one more, and then I'll have a few questions to ask you on them to conclude the show. We need to take a break. We need to take a quick break.
How many minutes break?
Dr. Bawumia once said,
every constituency will get $1 million every year for rural and deprived communities. Under this
with number 8. National Democratic Congress, NDC, Vujo Mahama, JM breaking the 8 with number 8.